The darkness over the New Orleans levee. A long time ago, the levee was built to stop the floodwaters from the Mississippi River. But every year, dozens, sometimes hundreds of bodies would wash ashore, drowned and bloated. Locals, with nowhere else to bury them, began laying the dead to rest right there, around the levee. Now the streets nearby are busy, full of life. But something about this place still feels wrong. Strange stories are whispered. Things people see. Things they don't want to talk about. It was a June afternoon. I had been in New Orleans for 2 months already, studying and trying to survive. I finally found a job at a metal workshop and rented a small room near the levee. The house was tucked deep inside a narrow alley, 3 floors high. The first floor was a tiny eatery someone had rented. The second belonged to the landlord. The third was mine. My room smelled terrible, stale, damp, and heavy like the air hadn't moved in weeks. I dropped my bag, rolled up my sleeves, and started cleaning. The place was small, but it left me exhausted. As the sky darkened outside, I lay down to rest, planning to grab something to eat later. But as soon as I closed my eyes, I slipped into sleep. That's when the dream began. There was a man standing in my room. Tall, broad-shouldered. His face was hidden in shadow. He wore a loose, dirty shirt, rolled-up pants, and a wide bucket hat that covered most of his features. A wooden carrying pole rested across his shoulders, swaying as he walked slowly, silently back and forth through the room. Each time I tried to cry out or move, he would stop, turn toward me, let out a low, guttural growl, and then strike the soles of my feet with that wooden pole. The pain felt too real to be a dream. I looked around. The room was the same, but everything felt hazy, unreal. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Coming up the stairs outside my door. The staircase from the second floor to mine had only 10 steps. But whoever, or whatever, it was, took forever to climb them. Step by step. Slow. Heavy. Dragging. I kept staring at the door, holding my breath. No one ever came. Inside, the man kept pacing. His eyes scanned the room like he was searching for something. My body wouldn't move. My mouth wouldn't open. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then he turned toward me again, and without a word he walked right up and slapped me hard across the face. It had been a very long time since I was slapped that hard. My hands twitched, trying to resist, but I couldn't move. Tears ran down my face. My mouth was wide open, yet no sound escaped. I just lay there, staring up at the ceiling, helpless. Then he slapped me again. Twice. Then he climbed on top of me and punched me right in the chest hard. Precise, painful. He kept going, punching and kicking my ribs, my stomach, like he was trying to break me apart from the inside. He was heavy. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't fight back. It felt like I was about to die. Then he grabbed my left foot. His fingers clamped onto my big toe and began twisting it, slowly, like he was unscrewing it, trying to pull it off like a bolt. The pain was so real I could feel it in my bones. When he finally yanked on it, I could feel the toe tearing away from my foot. It was agony. Right then, I heard the voice of the landlady calling me from downstairs. That voice snapped me out of whatever I was in. I jolted upright, gasping for air, soaked in sweat. I was sitting on the bed. The room was quiet. The light was still on. No one was there. The door was shut. Everything was still. I got up, lit a cigarette, trying to steady my hands. But the pain was still there. My chest hurt where he'd punched me, and my toe, especially the big toe, ached like someone had actually twisted it out of place. That night was just the beginning. Later that evening, I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what had just happened. Who was that man? The one with the bucket hat and the wooden stick? Why was he in my dream? Or was it really a dream? My head was filled with questions I couldn't answer. But it was getting late, and I needed to eat. Around 8 p.m., I walked down to the night market. I found a small noodle stall and sat down for a bowl of boon. I ate in silence, barely tasting the food. The only thing on my mind was whether or not I should return to that room tonight. Every instinct told me not to. But I had no other place to go, so I made my choice. I would go back, even if it meant seeing him again. After finishing my meal, I headed back. It was around 9 p.m. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, but there was already a sinking feeling in my chest. The first floor was the small eatery, but they only served food until noon. By now it was completely dark. The landlords, an older couple, usually stayed on the second floor, but tonight they were nowhere to be seen. The whole house was pitch black, from the ground floor up to the second, except for one faint light glowing from my window on the third floor. I stepped in and flipped on the stairwell light, then slowly made my way up. The silence in the house made every step sound louder than it should. When I reached the third floor, just as I was about to unlock my room, I heard something. A noise. It came from the room directly across from mine. I froze. That room, I suddenly remembered, was supposed to be empty. The landlord had told me it was used for ancestral worship. No one lived there. No one ever went in. But the noise. It sounded like someone inside was rummaging through things. For a second, I wondered, could it be a thief? But this was the third floor. There was no way anyone could have climbed up here without being noticed. No broken windows, no open doors. I stood there, trying to convince myself that it was nothing. Just an empty shrine room, nothing more. But the noise continued. Faint shuffling, like someone moving things around inside. I hesitated, then walked over. The closer I got, the louder it became. It sounded like someone digging through drawers, shifting boxes. Methodical, deliberate. I took a deep breath, gathered every bit of courage I had, and opened the door. The noise stopped. Instantly. I fumbled for the light switch and flicked it on. The room was small but neat. In the center stood a large wooden altar, but what struck me was that there was only one framed photo on it. A woman, middle-aged, her eyes cold and quiet. In front of the frame was a small plate of fruit, and on the plate, a single piece of purple silk cloth, neatly folded. I stood there, confused. Something felt off. I couldn't explain why. There was no incense burner, no candles, no offerings beyond the fruit and that strange purple cloth. No smoke, no ash, just silence. I wondered why there was no incense. Wasn't this supposed to be a shrine? But then I reminded myself, this isn't my house. Whatever they choose to put on their altar is none of my business. At least it wasn't a burglar. That should have been a relief. But somehow, it wasn't. After eating, I walked home. It was just past 9. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, already feeling a strange heaviness in my chest. The first floor, the little restaurant, had closed hours ago. The landlords were still out. The house was completely dark, from the ground floor all the way up to the second. Only one faint light was on. Mine, up on the third floor. I switched on the stairwell light and slowly climbed the steps. The house was dead silent. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat in my ears. When I reached the third floor, just as I was about to open my door, I heard a noise. It came from the room across the hall. I froze. That room was supposed to be empty. I remembered clearly. The landlord told me it was only used for worship. No one lived there. No one ever went in. But now, there were sounds coming from inside. A shuffling, like someone was moving things, digging through boxes or drawers. Could it be a thief? But this was the third floor. There was no way anyone could have climbed up without being noticed. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. I walked closer. The noise got louder, more deliberate. I took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and opened the door. The noise stopped. Instantly. I reached for the light switch and turned it on. The room lit up slowly. In the center was a large wooden altar, but there was only one photo on it. A woman, middle-aged, her face pale and unsmiling. In front of the frame, a small plate of fruit, and resting on the fruit, a piece of purple silk. That was it. No incense, no candles, no ash. Just silence and that single photo. It didn't make sense. Why was there no incense burner? No offerings? But I told myself it wasn't my business. It wasn't my shrine. Maybe that's just how they did things. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw them. Standing at the doorway was the landlord, and next to him, a woman. She looked odd, too still. Her eyes didn't blink. Her skin looked almost gray. I hadn't heard them come in. I didn't even know they were home. The landlord looked at me with a cold stare. "What are you doing in here?" I stammered. I heard a sound. Thought someone broke in. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just checking." I looked at the woman beside him. "She's your niece, right?" He didn't answer. He just kept staring. I apologized again and backed out, shut my own door behind me. That's when it hit me. How did he get in without making a sound? I would have heard the gate, the stairs, something. And that woman? Something about her didn't feel human. I shook off the thought, grabbed my phone, tried to distract myself with a game. Time passed. Eventually, around 11 p.m., I heard the gate open. A voice called from downstairs. "Boy, come down here. I need to talk to you." It was the landlady. I rushed down. She looked furious. "Why are all the lights on upstairs? What the hell are you doing?" I blinked. "Your husband came home earlier. I thought She cut me off. "He just got back 5 minutes ago. What are you talking about? You've been the only one in this house all night. Let me be clear, this is your first warning. If something like this happens again, you're out." I didn't say a word. I just stood there, frozen. If the landlord had only just come back, then who did I see in the shrine room? And that woman beside him, who the hell was she? My stomach turned. My knees felt weak. I ran back upstairs, locked the door behind me, sat on the bed with my headphones on, blasting music. But I couldn't shake the image. Her pale face, her blank eyes, the silence. Then it hit me. The woman in the hallway. She looked just like the one in the photo on the altar. I had only moved in that morning. Not even 24 hours, and already this? I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. Eventually, I passed out with the music still playing. But something woke me up. I checked my phone. 2:42 a.m. The room was still, silent, except, in the distance, faint and haunting, I could hear it. A string instrument. Someone was playing music inside the house. I told myself, who the hell plays music this late at night? Probably some guy with too much time, messing around. But when I stepped out to use the bathroom, the music got louder, clearer, closer. And it was coming from the shrine room across the hall. I crept over and pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Not even a creak. I took a step back. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just tired. I turned to leave, but something was wrong. My legs wouldn't move. They felt heavy, frozen, like they were buried in concrete. It was June, but my whole body turned ice cold. I couldn't even feel my hands. I tried to move, to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. A pressure built in my chest like something unseen was holding me there, refusing to let go. That's when I saw them. 3 men in faded military uniforms, rifles in hand, their faces pale and blood-smeared. Their eyes were blank, lifeless, like dolls. They walked slowly down the hallway toward my room, then turned and stepped down the stairs to the second floor. Behind them came an old woman in a tattered straw hat, carrying a red cloth bag. She didn't look up, just shuffled forward, her footsteps soft, wet somehow. And last, a man wearing a weathered pith helmet, holding a rotting string instrument in his hands. His skin was bloated, sagging, like someone who'd been pulled from the river after days underwater. None of them spoke. None of them looked at me. They just passed by, one by one, moving down the staircase. And then, they were gone. My legs still wouldn't move. I was frozen in place, drenched in sweat, barely able to breathe. I whispered silently, begging. I just moved in. I didn't mean to offend. Please, don't mess with me. Forgive me if I did anything wrong. Over and over. Then suddenly, I could move again. I stumbled back into my room, slammed the door shut, crawled into bed, and pulled the blanket over my head. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, shaking, waiting for the sun to rise. At dawn, I dragged myself downstairs, pale, exhausted, heart still racing. As I reached the ground floor, the woman from the noodle stall glanced up at me and frowned. "You didn't sleep, huh? Your eyes are dark like charcoal. You look like a ghost yourself." I collapsed into the nearest chair. She handed me a bowl of noodles, but my hands were trembling too much to hold the chopsticks. "You okay, kid?" I saw something," I muttered. "Last night. I think something's wrong with the house." And I told her everything. The shrine room, the music, the soldiers, the old woman, the man with the broken instrument. How they walked down the stairs and vanished. She didn't laugh, didn't roll her eyes, didn't say I was crazy. She just stared at me in silence. Then she spoke, quiet, slow, like every word carried weight. The noodle lady looked around as if to make sure no one else was listening. Then she leaned in and said, "This house, it's not the first time someone's seen things here." She lowered her voice. "Back in the early days, the owners were an old couple from Arizona. When they first moved here, they started out selling clothes. Did all right, made some money. Then one day, they switched to a different business. Butchery. Pig slaughter." She paused for a moment, watching me carefully. "From then on, things took off. Business boomed. By 1996, they had their only child, a daughter. 2 years later, they bought the land this house sits on. But back then, this whole area, it used to be a place where they buried the drowned." I froze. She nodded slowly. "There were bodies, from the Mississippi. People who drowned, washed up, nameless, no families. They were buried all along this area, unmarked, forgotten. But as more people moved in, land became valuable. So they flattened the cemeteries, bulldozed the graves, built homes, shops, restaurants, like this one." My skin crawled. She continued, "Once they built this house, the couple had enough money to quit the butchery. They opened a hardware store down the street. This place was just for living." She stirred the broth in my bowl, eyes distant. But 2 years ago, their daughter was around 17 or 18. One day, she got sick. Fever. Nothing too serious. But after that, she changed. I held my breath. She started going mad, only at night. During the day, she was quiet, distant, but normal. But when midnight came, she'd lock herself in the third-floor room, the one with the shrine. The air around us seemed colder. She'd sit up there for hours, talking, laughing, to no one. You'd hear her giggling through the walls. And the strangest part, she had this purple scarf. Said she found it somewhere, clutched it like it was gold. Wouldn't let anyone touch it. Her eyes hardened. If someone tried, she'd scream, bite, attack. Even her own parents couldn't calm her down. They took her to hospitals, doctors, therapists. Nothing worked. Then they turned to spiritual healers. Big names, small ones. Every single one said the same thing. She leaned closer. They couldn't help her. A chill ran down my spine. There was one last guy, some old monk from Arizona. He stayed here for 3 days and 3 nights, did rituals, prayed, burned incense. On the last night, he walked out shaking his head, never said a word, just left. She looked me straight in the eye. That room was hers. They turned it into a shrine after what happened next. I swallowed hard. "What happened to her?" I asked. "Last year, the girl hanged herself in that very room. It was early morning. The landlady went up to bring her some breakfast, only to find the door slightly open. And there she was, dangling from the ceiling, limp, lifeless, still clutching that same purple scarf in her hand. But that wasn't the worst part. The moment they tried to move her body into the coffin, a swarm of black butterflies flew into the house from nowhere. Hundreds of them. Crashing into walls, lights, mirrors, fluttering wildly like they were warning everyone not to touch her. The entire house was thrown into chaos. I sat frozen as the noodle lady spoke, my face drained of color, my hands shaking under the table. I told her everything I saw the night before. The 5 people, their ghostly faces, the way they walked down the stairs and disappeared. She nodded slowly. "This house, the land is cursed," she said. "Very few people last more than a week on the third floor. Some come and leave the next morning without a word. Others run away and leave all their belongings behind, too scared to even come back for them." She paused, then added something that sent a chill through my bones. "There was a night I stayed over here to prep for the morning. Around 2 a.m., I woke up and saw a line of people walking right through the house. Silent, pale. Their faces were not human anymore, and every single one of them had a bloated belly, like they drowned." My heart stopped. Since that night, I've made daily offerings. I leave food, light incense, pray, beg them to leave me alone. That's the only way I've been able to keep this shop running in peace. But I haven't dared sleep here again. I only come when the sun is up. I open shop at 6 a.m. now, never earlier. She looked down at the table, her voice trembling. Maybe it's karma. The couple used to slaughter pigs in their old days. Maybe all that bloodshed came back, and now it's their daughter paying the price. I nodded slowly, trying to process it all. My mind was in a blur. After we finished, I checked the time. It was almost 11 a.m. I left the noodle shop and walked toward a small drink stall at the end of the road, sat down, pulled out my phone and called my parents, told them everything. The nightmare, the shrine, the scarf, the ghosts, the suicide. There was a long silence on the other end of the call. Then my mom said quietly, "You need to find another place to stay. Get out of that neighborhood. That house isn't for the living." She paused, then added something that made my chest tighten. "Before you leave, this afternoon, go up to that shrine. Bring offerings, light some incense, and pray, not just to the girl, but to all the spirits there. Ask them not to harm you. Show respect." I promised I would, but deep down, even my father wouldn't dare. That afternoon, I killed time at a local gaming cafe, played a few rounds of League just to stay away from that house. Around 6 p.m., hunger crept in. I'd been there too long. I headed down toward the market and grabbed a slice of pizza. As I ate, my mind kept circling back. Should I even go back tonight? Maybe I should just crash at a cheap hotel and pick up my stuff tomorrow. But when I checked my wallet, $20, that was it. A hotel was out of the question. Screw it, one more night. If the ghosts don't drive me insane, I'll pack up and leave for good. As I approached the gate, my legs felt heavier with each step. I hesitated at the entrance. Something deep inside told me not to go in. I remembered what my mom had said earlier on the phone. Buy some incense, go to the altar room, light it. Ask the girl and the spirits there to leave me alone. I nodded to myself, more out of desperation than belief. Step by step, I climbed up to the third floor. My heart was racing. The moment I reached my room, I rushed in, locked the door, plugged in my headphones, cranked the volume to max, and curled up in bed. Somehow, I drifted off. 3 a.m. Sharp. It started again. That same damn sound. The broken guitar. Off key. Each string rang out like a cold knife against my nerves. I opened my eyes, frozen. Was it happening again? Suddenly, the guitar stopped, and then came the laughter, children's voices, right outside my door. Light giggles mixed with whispers in strange tongues. Some of it sounded like French, some like Chinese, some like something far older. I couldn't make sense of it, but one thing was certain, they weren't human. A cold sweat broke across my back. My spine turned to ice. Then, the door burst open. I know I locked it. She was there. The girl. Pale as paper. Empty eyes, that twisted little smirk like she knew something I didn't. And behind her, they followed. 5, maybe 6 of them. Bloated bellies, skin cracked like old clay. Some of them had wounds still open, raw. Their eyes were black, lifeless. They filled the doorway. Just standing there. Staring. No sound. Just watching. Just watching. And in that moment I knew. They weren't just passing through. They came for me. She pointed straight at me. Her face twisted in fury. Eyes wide, unblinking. I couldn't move. I pulled the blanket over my head, shut my eyes tight, and prayed it would all just go away. I stayed like that, frozen, until I heard the sound of the steel front gate being unlocked. The bun seller lady. That meant it was morning. I threw off the blanket and bolted out of the room. Down the stairs, past the second floor. I didn't stop until I collapsed in the front courtyard. I just sat there on the ground, completely drained. She looked at me and didn't ask a single thing, just handed me a cup of warm water. Her face said it all. She'd seen this before. She said quietly, "You're like the others. You should leave." That same morning, I called my mom, packed up my stuff, booked a cheap hotel, started looking for a new place to stay. That house, it wasn't just haunted. It was evil. There was something terribly wrong with it. Now, the bun seller has moved away too. No one lives in that house anymore. It's up for sale. But don't bother asking me where it is. I'm not telling, out of respect and out of fear.